Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Emil, can you hear me?
Yes,
you can.
We can.
So
Great.
For the first time since we started doing these digital events, my internet suddenly went down. I don't know if it's due to 2 out of 3 kids at home right now. But I think we should get started. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to welcome you all to this BSCC webinar, or actually roundtable discussion. And as you know, we've moved our physical events to the digital platform of Zoom or Teams for now, to continue to support our members to share knowledge, promote your companies, and try to help you network and connect with each other during these challenging times. So our mission is, of course, to keep updating our members on themes that we believe are important to the Anglo-Swedish business community. So do not hesitate to contact us should you have relevant knowledge to share with us and the rest of the network. We have also during these times been able to increase the cooperation between chambers of commerce and, of course, between Sweden and the UK. And today we aim for this roundtable discussion to be as interactive as possible. So please do ask your questions during this session. And before I hand over to our guests of honor and speakers from chamber member companies Accountum and StructureFinder, I would like to underline some housekeeping rules for you. So the event will be recorded. Please keep your cameras on if you're okay with that, so we can all see each other. During the presentations, keep yourself on mute until introduced to ask your question. And asking your questions during the presentation, you use the Q&A function, or just raise your hand and we try to involve you as quickly as possible. And if you have any technical issues, which I did for just now, do send an email, or as I did text, email Emil Kjellqvist. So on this day, when many of us are maybe a little more tired than usual due to the US election night, and the count is still ongoing, as we know. Right now, it looks like Trump has an advantage and has possibly also already declared himself a winner, or the winner. Please raise your hand now to show if you stayed up during the night to watch, just so that we see that you're listening and involved. Do we have any hands raised?
So does everyone know where to find this function? I believe it is under the participants. Right. We have it seems working for Andy. Andy, how did you go about finding the raise hand function?
So I'm using the iPad. If you press on the image, such as the video or the presentation screen, depending on how you've got it set up, it will create a drop-down menu, and there's a More button with 3 dots, and the raise hand function is there.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Seems to be working.
So then we have all tried it. So that's very good. And sorry, I'm on my phone right now, so that's why it's a little shaky maybe. Do bear with us. So right now we are all affected by the fast changing digital transformation in some shape or form, possibly the pandemic. The US election for sure is affecting all of us, and not the least the EU exit. There is not a lot of time left until the end of this transition period, as you know, and there are still a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of companies are possibly not prepared for the next step, which is in itself an unknown, I would say, for many of us. I think we are all foreseeing change in the way we work and how businesses are being run, and how the general map of businesses will look in the future. So trying to be agile. Today, we are hoping to help lead you in the right direction of running your businesses after the end of the transition period, especially in areas such as moving goods, taxes and tariffs, employees, and also employees' conditions. So with us today, we have two experts within the international accounting area. So Jonny Boström, founder and senior executive consultant of StructureFinder, who is a business enabler, passionate to grow business and supporting international business being compliant in Sweden. And to match Jonny, we have also Johan Aurén, who's the founder and managing director of Accountum, who is helping Swedish businesses set up and prosper in the UK, providing end-to-end UK accounting services and tax advice. Dedicated to answer your questions and leading this discussion on EU exit readiness check for SMEs. We're pleased to have both of you with us today to cover both sides. Warmly welcome, Jonny and Johan. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So, Johan, do you want to start?
Right. Yeah, thank you very much for listening today. So we thought we were going to break this up in 4 main sections. The first one will be a little bit about services, and then moving goods, look a little bit about e-commerce. That's part of moving goods in this case, and then GDPR, and if we have time, look a little bit about people and employees and hiring. Post, I still use Brexit, even though I guess we should use UK leaving the EU. But so there we are. If I jump straight in and talk a little bit from a UK perspective about services, so say you're a UK company selling services to Sweden. The whole service sector is obviously an enormous sector in terms of contribution to the economy, but there's still not that much talked about it in the sense that there are probably not that many changes straight away. What will sort of happen at the moment, the basic rule is if it's a VAT registered business selling to VAT registered business in Sweden, the place of supply would be where the customer is, and if you're selling to a consumer, it would be a place of supply where the supplier is, so UK in this case. If you sell services as a UK business to a VAT registered business in Sweden, you would probably at the moment use the reverse charge, but obviously going forward, that's only within EU, so it will most likely then be 0 rated instead. But yeah, no, and also I think that's one of the key things with services. So it's just to be very aware of where the place of supply is and whether you need to VAT register perhaps in Sweden. As well as in the UK for certain services, perhaps. Over to you, Jonny.
So basically, it's similar in Sweden, that it's where you deliver the services that is the critical point here. And if you sell services out to UK, it will be considered to be outside of EU. And that will have quite a lot of impact on how you report VAT. And also, but that we will touch upon later, the VAT registration, all of that, how to reclaim VAT. But for services, it will be like, it will go from being within EU and go to have it as outside of EU, and you don't have the reporting that is common nowadays within EU. That is a quite simplified way to go about it. So moving goods, this is the
May I ask a question, Jonny,
yes,
before we move on to the next thing? I was thinking, as I said, initially, will there be a lot of opportunity or ideas of maybe changing how you deliver services? Would you possibly think of setting up a company in the third country, the UK, if you're delivering from Sweden, to avoid having more problems? Or is this how you're going to go about doing it?
I think there's several options depending on the kind of business you have, and also because that will touch upon moving employees to other countries and those effects. So I would say I think that will be even more complicated, could be, depending on how used you are today to do business with outside of EU, because nowadays many companies they are quite familiar with trading within EU, quite simplified rules and regulations. We all have a common praxis. We know all of this, so this will be like a new area, and I think that we will probably see some different alternatives that different companies try to figure out ways to do it in a smarter way. So that could definitely be a way to go about it.
Yeah, and I think also because we get a lot of questions where, say, Swedish company, oh, we're going to set up a UK company, but there's no presence in the UK. It's literally just a company. And I think for both corporate tax and management and control and that, but also in particular for VAT as well, there need to be some sort of belonging in the UK, for example, to be VAT registered. So there's more to it than perhaps just setting up a company, even though we do get a lot of those questions where people think, oh, let's set up a UK company and then we reclaim the VAT and all of that in the UK. Yeah. Any other questions on this? It's yeah. So the next section we're going to jump into is where there's probably more changes, and it's all about the moving goods. So I thought I will just start talking about what say a UK company or someone importing goods to the UK, what are the sort of key things to think about now and how it would work. So I think the absolute first thing is, if you import goods into the UK, you will need an EORI number, a UK EORI number. And also consider whether you should be VAT registered, of course. So they go almost hand in hand in the UK. Because at that stage, it's very important to set out in your contracts and terms who is actually paying for the import duties and that, and also where the place of supply is. So that's step one. And assuming then your business is the one that will actually import the goods to the UK, then it's important to consider, okay, how we going to do this. Most people and businesses would probably use an intermediary, the freight forwarder company or something like that will handle this process to a certain extent. But when goods are coming into the UK, if you don't do anything, there will have to be a valuation for duty, import VAT. All of that needs to be sorted before the goods are released. But there is then, of course, the more simplified setup, and there are many terms around this, and it was certainly confusing for me to start with as well. But basically, you can look at deferring paying duties. So I think a lot of people, they mix VAT and duties together, but there are two separate areas here. So what HMRC, the UK tax authority, recommend is that if you regularly import goods to the UK, it would be worth having a deferment account, which is for duties. So basically what you would do, you could either use an agent's deferment account. So what happens is goods coming into the UK, they will, and it's also important that the goods are coming into a port that is connected to HMRC. So they will then submit saying this company with VAT number, EORI number has had goods coming in, and they will declare this at a later stage or submit the declaration. And at that stage, then goods could then be released into the UK. HMRC knows there will be a declaration coming. So with the duty declaration, you know, you need to value the goods, check the origin of the goods, all of that. And then the VAT will, import VAT will also be based on that valuation. That's step one. You can either use an intermediary or you apply for a deferment account yourself. At the moment, I heard it's around 120 days turnaround period on that. So if you're selling a lot of goods and you apply now, you know, for January and possibly into February, you wouldn't have your own deferment account. So you would need to use an intermediary, and that's why it's very important to start to talk to those now and see what they charge and how that would happen. You know, because there will be an enormous demand for that. Anyway, when you have the deferment account, goods go in, you will then get 6 months to make the declaration for duties, and once the declaration for duties are done, HMRC will send a statement which you then base your VAT on. One little practical point here is because with the VAT, you can also, if you have a deferment account, you then do the simplified accounting for VAT, which means you will put the import VAT in box 1 or 4 is the latest I heard, on your VAT return. But obviously that might be an estimate until you actually get the proper valuation. And that can create a bit of practical problems where you need to reconcile this. Yeah, no, I think I don't want to go into too much detail because I could probably talk about this for an hour. But yeah, the key steps: VAT, EORI number. How are you going to defer? Either apply for a deferment account yourself or use an intermediary, and then set up the systems to record a VAT and make the declarations. As of this week, there should be a simplified deferment account, because with the deferment account, you will need to estimate and obtain a guarantee and set up a direct debit. So you can only do this at the moment if you have a UK bank account as well, which is another practical problem perhaps. But the new deferment account is for good if the duties are less than £10,000 per month. You will not need a guarantee for that, so that could be an option for many small SMEs. I think that's the basic first action points from a UK perspective to look at now. So over to you, Jonny.
Okay, yeah. So for a Swedish company importing from UK, it's a similar process, I would say. The first is to get, because I think this is the area where it will be most changes if you are already are exporting a lot of and importing within EU, and this will now be outside of EU. I think this is the one that will have most impact on. The same goes for Swedish company. That's the first thing is that you need to get this EORI number, and that is your unique number for your company. And if you have like companies in several countries, you should only apply in one country where you have like the headquarters. And this you could apply at Tullverket, and it's quite a speedy process. It takes like 5-6 days, working days, they say. The next thing that you should think about if you are importing to Sweden from UK is that you should register for online services at Tullverket to be able to get all the administration documents and all of that in place. Similar to what Johan mentioned, you also have the customs handling here in Sweden, and you could apply to get a deferment of payment, and that is given normally for 30 days. that you can defer the payment for 30 days here in Sweden. You might also have some goods that have more comprehensive guarantees needed, so that you really need to look into. And as Johan mentioned, one of the main questions that you should ask yourself, depending on your business, the first is what the purpose of your import-export, and should you do it yourself or should you use an intermediary just to get someone that is really proficient in this area, depending on how complex the business you have. For Sweden, it's also you have other things that will be impacted in terms of reporting, like you have the intrastat reporting to Swedish Statistics Sweden, and you have also, similar to what Johan mentioned, that in the VAT return form that you are to supply regularly, you will treat this as export and import outside of EU. So you need to treat this separately instead of what previously was done when you have the EU treatment for this. Also, what could be mentioned, if you have goods in transit during the new year, what happens? So basically, if you have documents stating that is what you have started the shipping before end of this year, the old rules apply. But if it's otherwise, it will be considered to be outside of EU. And as Johan said, this is the most complex area, and probably also because people are quite, I think most people, they are quite common to have like import and export within EU, and much more simplified way to do it. But now it's more like will be more complex. So.
Thanks, Johan and Jonny. We have received our first question, which I thought would be a good timing to bring up now, regarding the any costs associated with setting up a deferral account from Readiness. Thanks for joining us today, Rickard.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for interesting presentation. I just have some practical questions concerning VAT. I have my own company. If I buy goods from the UK in the future, will I pay VAT or not? And what do you expect from the UK government? Will the VAT be raised in the UK, or will be the same level as in the EU, since they will not follow the EU regulations any longer? Can you elaborate a little bit about this?
Yeah, so basically it was two questions. The first one is if you buy things from UK, from a Swedish perspective, no, they should not apply any VAT on it, and you will have to declare it as reverse charge in your income, in your VAT declaration here in Sweden. And the second question, I guess Johan is more suitable to reply.
Yeah, I also think a little bit on the first one. It's all about place of supply and where the sale happens. So if you, Rickard, say have your company in Sweden and you buy goods from the UK after Brexit, then it depends, where does the goods change hands. So if that happens in Sweden, there might be more Swedish issues, but also the UK supplier might be the one who's actually paying for import duties and VAT in Sweden, I believe. If you buy the goods and take ownership in the UK, then your company will be the one importing goods into Sweden, and then I guess you would have to pay and declare the VAT according to the Swedish regulations. So yeah, no, and in terms of the VAT, I haven't heard anything that they would change the VAT at the moment. There's obviously everything else going around in the world. They're talking about raising corporate tax perhaps, and who knows, VAT, just to recover all the support packages for COVID as well. But I haven't seen any specific anything saying that they would either lower or increase the VAT, but I haven't seen anything either where they would level it with the EU. But I think, you know, it will stay roughly around where it is for now. But that's just my opinion. So yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to follow up there about if you trade on an e-commerce platform,
yeah,
what will happen with the VAT and import duties and stuff like that?
Yes, we're actually moving on to that next, the e-commerce a little bit more.
Okay.
So that might actually be a very good start, unless anyone has any other questions on part 2.1. I guess then the e-commerce will be 2.2. Shall I?
Yeah, please.
Yes, I think that the key changes from a UK perspective here, after 31st of December would be it would be very much focused on an online market place and OMP. So any business that operates an online marketplace that facilitates sales of goods to UK customers will probably need to VAT register in the UK. And then and also any business, you know, that sell goods direct without an online market platform to UK customers will probably need to register for VAT in the UK. We then have so at the moment within the EU, I think you have that if goods are worth under £15, you don't need to. Oh, sorry, not just within the EU, but the low consignment relief, as we have it now, will probably be removed. But then the key thing from a UK perspective is if you are sending goods at a value, and that's a consignment of goods sent to the UK that is worth under £135, then you will then just need to register for an online platform, and you perhaps don't need to fully register for VAT in the UK. But how will this sort of, so that's the key thing, the online marketplace. And, you know, so in the past, for example, if you have Swedish companies selling via Amazon, for example, or something like that, would probably then have the sale to the UK customer and just use Amazon as a facilitator. But the way I understand it is that the business operating the online marketplace will be the one that will have to account for the sale VAT. So roughly how it would work is, so if the consignment is worth more than £135 and the goods are located outside the UK when sold, then the normal VAT rules would apply. And this is then not, this is not part of an online marketplace. If the goods are then worth less than £135 and located outside the UK, you will then need to look at if you sell to VAT registered businesses or unregistered businesses or consumers. So if you sell to a non-registered VAT client via an online marketplace, then the online marketplace will be seen as the supplier and will have to account for the VAT. If it's not via the online marketplace, then the merchant, UK or non-UK merchant, will have to account for the sale VAT at the time of sale. So that's the under 135. If, for example, you sell goods that are located in the UK at the time of sale, and the seller is also inside the UK, then it's the normal UK VAT rule. But if you're a Swedish company selling goods that are located in the UK to UK customer, sorry if this go on a bit, it can get very complex, but then again, it's all about if it's unregistered by an open online marketplace. Again, the online marketplace facilitator will deal with the VAT, the way I understand it at the moment. And if not, then the merchant will deal with the VAT. So the actual company selling the goods. And if it's on a VAT registered business, if it's not via an online marketplace, then it's normal VAT rules, and you will need to register in the UK. And if it's by an online marketplace, the overseas seller accounts for VAT, and then the online marketplace provider notifies the seller and provides the VAT receipt. So it can get very complex, but there are changes there, and the key is, is it more or less than £135 is really the starting point, and then where do you use an online marketplace? I think that's over to you, Jonny. Sorry.
Yeah. So in terms of online sales, so if you have like a Swedish online platform and you sell to UK, and as Johan said, if the goods are delivered from Sweden, you shouldn't, and you sell to consumer, you should not apply any VAT. It should be considered as export, and depending also on the scale of the business, as he mentioned, £135, you might need to register at HMRC to do this kind of to get the correct treatment of VAT. Also, what will change from a Swedish perspective for VAT is that you can no longer reclaim any VAT paid in UK from Swedish tax authority, Skatteverket. In the case that you have VAT to reclaim, you need to register at HMRC to get it. And also, this is the area with VAT where we have had the practice where companies know how, okay, these are the different rulings in different scenarios, but now this is like uncharted terrain that we enter, so we don't know actually in each detail how they will treat it. So I would say this is quite a complex area because we don't know what we know, like the general rules, but we will have to see when. After a period of time, if there are any like huge questions that occur, and that might, since we don't have the extra practice to rely on as we have today. So also there are also some changes from Swedish companies' perspective, how to deal it in the tax reform, in a VAT tax return form, and also that you have, like in Sweden, you have this periodic reporting on VAT, EU sales. All the sales and purchases from UK, you will no longer, of course, report in that form.
No, I can see that you have raised your. Sorry, Jonny.
Also, today we have something called MOS, Mini One-Stop Shop. That is a simplified VAT for online services. That will not be applicable no longer for UK trades after end of this year.
Thanks for that, Johan and Jonny. I can see that, Ragnar, that you've raised your hand. I would very much like for you to join the discussion. Feel free to unmute yourself. You might still be on mute there.
Yeah, thank you, Emil, and thank you, Jonny and Johan. This is Ragnar from Centigo. You mentioned one area where you believe that we're in uncharted territory, and I'd be interested to understand from you, because you've been very, very distinct in all these areas. This is how it works, and this is how it won't work. What areas can you see are still either up for discussion or whether it's not enough precedence so to tell what's going to happen? It would be interesting to understand, in your view, what are the gray zones and what are still, as you put it, uncharted territory.
Yeah, going back to what Christina mentioned before, I think that since most business and entrepreneurs, they're very creative, so they will see, they will test the system and try to set up in different ways to ship goods, different components in goods moved here and there. So there is where I see that there might be some changes, and depending on how the business try to set up different structures for the flow of goods.
Yeah, no, and to add to that, I think with the no deal Brexit, I mean, in the sense of how VAT and duties are calculated and reported and all of that, there I guess there is a certain amount of certainty, but it's the uncertain areas, as you say, Johnny, is when, and that's any change, any law change, whatever, there's always creative ways of getting around and setting up new structures, etc. But I think in the event of a absolutely no deal, then you know, the basic rules will be there, and they are fairly certain. I still believe there will be, it will be something that will in the last hour happen, but that will ease a lot of this. But yeah, we shall see.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just thinking. So we listened to Alex Dean the other day, and he was positive, carefully positive about finding a compromise to agree to free trade agreement by the end of the year, which gives a bit of comfort. So saying that is the case, will these new rules, they will start applying, will they be for our SMEs and entrepreneurs and small companies? Will it be easy or very difficult to apply to all of these new rules? And how would you go about, you know, finding out? If you're not on this call, how would you know what to do?
Yeah, so I think, you know, the large companies, they would have had advisors and teams specializing in this, and they would be quite well prepared for different scenarios. And so really, the SMEs, it is difficult because it's up to you to make sure you understand and have the right advice. UK has, I think that the one thing from a UK perspective to do now is really to make sure you have your EORI number and really consider if you should apply for the deferment account. And at least then you've done as much as you can in terms of if in the event of a hard Brexit. However, you know, if there are things happening last minute, you know, then everyone needs to keep on top of that, and that would be very difficult. You know what's happening in this area and that area, and you know, it would probably change. You know, I'm thinking there will be some sort of compromise agreement, and certain things might continue until something else has been agreed. But I'm probably also a little bit cautiously positive around it, and I spoke to someone the other day, and he said it when the dust has settled, it will all be fine. But he was very British, so but yeah, no, I think that, you know, but it will be very difficult to keep on on top of everything. And then the next step, obviously, with movement of employees and data, which we're going to come on to next, I think.
Johan, I think we should mention that HMRC, they have a very good service online.
Oh, yes.
Where you can actually go in and fill out the form depending on your situation. I'm a Swedish company exporting to the UK, or I'm a UK citizen moving to Sweden, and they will sort of give you not advice, but this is what you need to consider.
Yeah.
So it's quite good one, I would say.
Yeah, if I send that link to you, Emil, or Christina, you can share that with the group, because that actually, at the end of it, you get a couple of key things, or not just key, quite a lot of things with links how to find out more. So that's quite good. Plus, HMRC has written in the last couple of weeks again letters to all VAT registered businesses, setting out more details as well, so that they try to inform people that way. But yeah,
we'd be happy to share that. Ragnar Agnell, is that something that you've used?
Well, maybe a combination
that you're raising your hand.
Yes. Well, indeed, yes. And I agree that the website there is very impressive. It's very clear, and a little bit on your point, Jonny, from before. I think that that website gives you very clear guidelines if you know what you're doing, if you know what you want, and you can sort of go through step by step to verify if that's good, if it's correct or not. And I'm sure that many can probably pick up some ambiguities on that way. But it'd be interesting to hear your view. Do you think that, you mentioned before, Jonny, that it depends on how business set themselves up to find different, well, more or less creative operating models to do this or that way? Do you find it useful for the reader to guide in that sense as well?
It might be, but as I said, this is like how they have interpreted all the regulations and rules as they are now, and made a really good effort of trying to get everything in place. But I think if you start to move into the gray areas, I think that will also impact the recommendations from that side. So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Ragnar. Lots of ground to cover. We have just under 15 minutes left. We've talked about moving goods.
Maybe you have some.
Oh, sorry. Might be some connection issues there.
Yes, I think next item we wanted to. Sorry,
Christina, you were saying something?
Yes, well, you move on. I just wanted to make sure that everyone could have their say and comment. I was thinking, Marty Shipley, you're from UPS, so transport and logistic, of course, very important to all of us. And so is Daniel Eishorn, you're in financial services, digital. Well, you can explain yourself, and I'm sure you have a question, and maybe Gustav, you also have a question regarding GDPR. So do consider that, and if not right now, I think John.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. Might be some connection issues there with Christina's internet, I think. Jonny and Johan, if we just move on to the last two subjects. I'd be happy to take questions from the audience in the chat as well that we can bring up at the end of the webinar. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess next area is the GDPR and the transfer of personal data from Europe into the UK. So that will need to be addressed. And I guess many people will actually add a paragraph to their contracts or engagement letters where you get that consent to use the data, but otherwise you will probably need to issue and get certain statements from your European the people who provide the data and the data which is all about that you will need that consent. I think that's probably all I'm going to say at this point. But it will, yeah, you can't just freely deal with personal data of Europeans.
No. Yeah, to touch upon that is that you really need to look into all the agreements that you have and what is stated there. As from 1st of January next year, if you move data to UK, it will be considered to be moving data to a third country outside of EU. And the Swedish data inspection, they will make an assessment of the data protection for UK, how they perceive it. And based on that assessment, they will make recommendation how you should treat personal data that you move there. Also, I just read the other day that there is a special agreement on the way, hopefully, and they were very positive. Hopefully, it will be in place before end of December. So that will clarify, because if they get this agreement in place, maybe this isn't a big issue.
Staying on the subject of GDPR, I can see that Gustav Javeri, you raised your hand there for a bit from Comic Consulting, working, helping our members regarding GDPR. It would be great for you to share your perspective on this.
Yes, excellent. Hopefully you can hear me all right. In terms of the GDPR, obviously it's still applicable to the UK, and this is more of a comment than a question, but the UK has been very positive towards the GDPR from its initiation, and following on from what you've said, Jonny, it seems that the continuation of the general rules of the GDPR will continue to apply going into next year. From the Information Commission within the UK, their advice has been for SMEs in particular simply to continue following the GDPR. And if you are compliant with the GDPR, then going into next year, you will be in the best possible position for whatever does come. The adequacy decision that you mentioned, Jonny, again, hopefully I'm also hopeful that it will be completed before the end of the year and be a bit more clear. The major concern that we at Kami Compliance have with being able to help our customers is the delay or the potential stall in the return of a decision on an adequacy decision for more political reasons, and very much to do with the relationship that exists between the EU and the UK at the end of the transition period. But in general, what we're suggesting, at least to our clients, is be compliant with the GDPR standard contractual clauses. So as Johan mentioned, being able to implement clauses into your service agreements stating that both the third country, the third company is compliant with the GDPR should be enough to satisfy the authorities for the time being.
Thanks.
Thanks, Gustav. Yeah, great to have you on the call. So, Jonny and Johan, on the subject of GDPR, is there any additional comments, or should we move on to the last and final subject of employee conditions? I'm conscious of time here.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, I think that summary there from Gustav was very good. So no, that's fine. I think then the final point is obviously if you're hiring people and if you're hiring people in the UK, if they were arrived in the UK and before 31st of December, they can apply for a settled status grant, or if they've been in the UK and already been here for the right amount of time, they can apply for settled status. That means they can continue to work in the UK, and if you're only arriving now and you apply for that grant, that's valid for 5 years, I believe, and they can, within that period, they will need to have to apply for the full settled status. But after, and for employees, any sort of sponsorship licenses and visas and all of that will be extended by 6 months. So if someone is here now, you as an employer will not have to apply for this, or as an employee, the settled status you need to have by 30th of June. But then thereafter there will be a sort of visa system in place where you as an employer, if you employ someone from the European Union or elsewhere in the world, will have to apply for tier 2 visa, and you will need to have a license for that. There's some costs around that. I think the application is 400, something like that. And then, so that's what you will need to do to sponsor employees from outside the UK to work in the UK. To get that visa, you will need a 20-point, and by paying a skilled worker more than 25,600, you get the 20 points. So from the outset, it doesn't look very difficult to get to the 20 points and get a tier 2 visa. There will be some costs involved with it, but it shouldn't be too difficult from a UK perspective. Then, of course, there's also the youth mobility scheme with various countries in the world where people could come and work in the UK for up to 2 years. I think Canada, Australia, and these are part of that. So there will, maybe that will be extended to European countries, so people could come and work for 2 years without a visa. But that's just speculations at the moment. But yeah, I think those are the key points in terms of the first steps there.
And similar, if you are moving to Sweden, or if you're a UK citizen living in Sweden, nothing basically will change. By end of this year, you will be able to stay. If you plan to live in Sweden for more than 1 year, you need to register at the Swedish population register, folkbokföringen. And you can only register if you have a right of residence, uppehållsrätt, for a year or more. So, in short, yeah.
Right. Thank you, Jonny, and thank you, Johan. I think that concludes the 4 subjects of tax, moving goods. We touched upon e-commerce as well, employee terms, and GDPR. If you would like to bring up any last questions from the group that are with us, now would be the time. Christina, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me? I seem to have very bad connection, and I think it's probably I speak on different things and nobody can hear me. Maybe it's because of the US election. Everyone is online right now. So I really wanted to hear from some of the guests regarding what you're all doing, but I'm more than happy to introduce you with your specific questions directly to Jonny and Johan. If there are no more waving right now that I can see, or Emil, I would like to take this opportunity to thank both Jonny and Johan for your insight presentations and great discussion with the audience. And I look forward to continuing this great cooperation that we see between 2 member companies across Sweden and the UK. And if there are no more last short, very, very brief comments, Jonny, Johan?
No, I'm just, it's obviously a fairly fluid situation at the moment, and any questions anyone may have, please feel free to contact me on the UK side.
Yeah. I'm very happy to be here, and also if you have any questions, please reach out to me.
Thank you. We'd be more than happy to introduce our members to you. Thank you ever so much again. Great subject, very difficult within the short of an hour to discuss. I think we will see a follow-on when we know even more, and we will stay on the subject of what's going on in the world, and we have a cooperation next week with AmCham about what did America decide and why and how and what's the next step, and we will continue speaking about the updates on the EU exit. Thank you everyone for tuning in this morning, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
See you.
Bye-bye.